I'm going into trials after everything in my life just crumbled, and I'm like, maybe I'm done. Like, I don't know what I'm capable of. Maybe this is my sign to get out because I just got in a really bad spot and I wasn't leaving bed. Like, I just skipped practices. So for me, I wasn't sure I was going to make the team at all.
How great is it to call yourself an Olympic champion?
There's pride in it, but I want to do it individually. And for the last two Olympics, I've failed to make the final in my individual event.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. And we've got another fantastic guest for you on this week's episode as we are hopping across the pond and speaking to American gold medal winning Hunter Armstrong.
Yeah, known as the Magic Man. Yeah, I always thought of him as a backstroker, but he's also a very decent freestyler. As well, his gold actually came in the 4x1 freestyle relay, didn't it? So we'll get to his thoughts on how he thought his Olympics went, as well as Team USA as a whole.
Yes, absolutely. Now, this episode gets deep in parts as well, because he reveals how his 2023 and some of the 2024 build-up went into US trials, which was eye-opening at times, and I'm really grateful swimmers feel comfortable enough to start speaking about these discussions. So please sit back and enjoy as we speak to one of America's fastest ever backstrokers and freestylers, Hunter Armstrong. So please welcome onto the podcast this week, two-time Olympic champion Hunter Armstrong. Hunter, first of all, how great is it to call yourself an Olympic champion?
I mean, it definitely there's pride in it, but I want to do it individually. And for the last two Olympics, I've failed to make the final in my individual event. So, I mean, I do take pride in being an Olympic champion, but I think the real Olympic champion is somebody who can do it individually.
I mean, it's been a few weeks since Paris. Have you had a homecoming at all?
Yeah, we did had a little bit of a meet and greet at my hometown YMCA. It was awesome. I missed being home.
Yeah, because I think you were one of the first swimmers from the American team to head back home, weren't you? From looking at the Instagram stories that went around.
Oh yeah, no, I'm getting out of there. Like, the village beds are just not as comfortable as what I got here. So
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, so you talked about trying to become an individual champion. That's like the biggest Olympic title that you can hold to your name. And we'll get to that as this podcast goes along. But first, maybe let's start talking about the journey that got you there. So let's go back to US trials. You're our first guest who's raced at US trials. We always say here in the UK that there's more pressure to make the team at trials than there is once you get to an Olympic Games. Is that sort of the same case with American swimmers, given that the spectacle that was put on and just how many eyes were on that meet?
I'd say that trials is a much higher stakes. Like, it's far more stressful at trials than it is the games or worlds or any. All of our trials meets are typically the focus, unless you're Murph or Phelps or Caleb, where you can just kind of make it anyway. But no, for a vast majority of us, we got to go all in and then back it up.
Yeah, I mean, the spectacle was immense in a stadium as well. Massive amount of people watching, like Scott was saying. How much did that stage and show prepare you for what was to come in Paris, again, in another stadium?
Once I'm like on deck, I sort of just put the blinders on. But that was the first meet where, well, the biggest meet with fans because we weren't allowed fans in Tokyo. But I don't know the attendance in Paris, but I think we had more people at trials than we did
did.
Paris.
I think you did, yeah.
I think the
That's
max
crazy.
capacity in Paris was 18,000. I think you hit
Yeah.
like 22 at US trials.
Oh man, it might have been louder at Paris though, or maybe I was just listening more for it.
Or maybe. What happens between the end of your trials to going to Paris? Like, because you guys become a singular squad almost immediately. Like, I saw the first training session happened in that pool.
Yeah, we as soon as the meet ended, we came back the next day and we had our first little practice together. Then we all went our separate ways for about anywhere from 5 days to a week. Then we come back for our domestic camp, which was in Raleigh. And then from that point on, we're together until we leave Paris.
Wow. So US trials is roughly a month before the Olympics. How much work goes into working as a relay team for things like takeovers, for example?
Our relays are really loose.
Okay.
So obviously, if you qualify as a relay only swimmer, you have to do it. But I mean, I didn't know that I was on the good chance that I was on the 4 free relay, but they could have at any moment pulled me off and put somebody else on who was just really doing well at camp. So we typically don't know final relays until the night before.
Okay. So in that case, then your camp focus was the 100 back?
Yeah, I mean, I train almost exclusively freestyle anyway, so my focus of camp was just sustain my training and fix up a couple small things, but I think I maybe did 300 meters of backstroke the entire camp.
Oh, wow.
See, I would consider you more as a backstroker than a freestyler, but maybe I'm wrong thinking that.
Well, I don't think you're wrong in thinking that. Everybody thinks that I'm a backstroker, and I mean, I guess I am. I mean, I had the 50 back world record, and I've had a decent showing in the 100 back, but as far as my training goes and what I did in high school, what I did in college, I was always 50, 100 freestyle.
Okay.
Well.
So if we're thinking that first original point that you brought up, saying the goal is Olympic champion, is it in the 100 free? Is it in the 100 back? Like, does it see what happens?
Both.
I really wanted the 100 free, but I don't think I can do 46.4.
I don't think many
like
can.
That's yeah. I mean, I felt confident about going 46 mid flat start within my career, but 46.4, that's pushing it. I don't know if I got that in me.
Yeah, God, so I don't think anyone's getting anywhere close to that apart from Pan himself, I think. So in the month after trials and the lead up to Paris, what was happening in that month training wise? Because in the UK we've done multiple blocks. Our trials, is back in April, so there's another block to get through. But you've got to try and, like you say, be absolutely 100% for your trials, but then also be 100% 1 month later for Paris. So what do you do in that middle 4 week?
We right after trials, we'll slowly build back into training because we've all tapered and we have to build up a little bit. And we started to drop off again by it really started to be noticeable second week in Croatia.
Okay.
But it'll start to settle down. Like the yards will come down, but the intensity won't in the beginning.
Right. Okay. Like there's more hard work to get in the bank, or is it just a case of trying to stay at that same level, give or take?
For me, it was trying to get it in the bank.
Right.
Because I had a pretty challenging year.
How so?
Oh man, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a whole depressing conversation, but my entire 23 to 24 year, so in Fukuoka, well, right before, my coach that I followed to California left. Then day of the 50 back final in Fukuoka, my grandpa died. And then 2 days before Doha Worlds, my long-term girlfriend broke up with me. So it was, I'd say 5 months leading into trials, I maybe trained 2 of them because I just got in a really bad spot and I wasn't leaving bed. Like I'd just skip practices. So for me, I wasn't sure I was going to make the team at all. Um, and so when I did, I'm like, okay, I got lucky, so now I need to put more work in so that
Mm.
I can try to fix everything for Paris.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, get lucky and hit the times that you hit is, I don't know, is that an understatement? I think that just shows the quality of swimmer that's there.
Well, I mean, I'd say it's a little bit of luck. I mean, I feel for Jack Aikens.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was twice. He
Two
got
thirds.
third
Yeah.
twice. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's brutal.
So when we're talking, you got the work in the bank. Is that where the splits came from in the 4x1 free relay? Like we saw you on the pool deck after the final, and you were, I would say, the most emotional swimmer in that pool deck, celebrating the win. So is that where the 46.7 came from in that relay? Was because you got that new lease of motivation after trials, heading into Paris, good block under your bank, and then suddenly, yeah, 46.7 is good. Is very good.
Yeah, I mean, I am a very emotional swimmer, but also I think a lot of it was confidence.
Yeah.
Because going into trials, I really didn't have any because I was underperforming all year. I was getting beat every day that I would show up to practice by Jack. Um, and so I went into trials. The 23 year was the first time I ever did not drop time in any of my events.
Okay.
So I'm going into trials after everything in my life just crumbled, and I'm like, maybe I'm done. Like, I don't know what I'm capable of. Maybe this is my sign to get out.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
what's the mindset now after everything that has happened?
The mindset now is to enjoy swimming again.
Yeah.
Um, one of the biggest lessons I learned from Murph is, I mean, he goes into every Worlds and Olympics with the intention to win, but the mentality that he carries is very different. Um, his focus will always be the Olympics, whereas I never expected to make the team in 21. Um, and so when I made it in 21, I had a chip on my shoulder in 22 to prove that it wasn't a mistake.
Mm.
And then 23, everything kind of started to crumble a bit. But he enjoys swimming. And because I had gone into every single meet treating it like it was the Olympics, mentally I just burned out.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
get
do.
that.
I do wonder if we always talk about you have to enjoy the sport or any sport to be able to then progress through. And obviously, Caleb is a pretty good example of that. Was that the sort of squad mentality as a whole to try and just enjoy the Olympics more so than actually put pressure on yourselves?
Oh, this was by far my favorite meet that I've gone to. Um, I mean, this was a fun meet. Um, I mean, I had Caleb on this pedestal ever since he went that 17 at NC's. He's been a god of swimming for me. Um, and now we're playing Smash Bros and poker and like making dumb jokes. So that was a big shift for me, is seeing these people as people.
Humans, yeah. Yeah.
So it was just amazing to have fun with these guys.
And I really appreciate you opening up to us about these sort of things, because I think the power that, like Adam, here in the UK, Adam's spoken very openly about his mental health struggles in the past few years, and I think it's given the power back to athletes to say it's okay to feel like this, like it's not a form of weakness whatsoever. And then there's proof, like at these Olympic Games, there was all these comebacks of all of these journeys and so many people getting back to where they used to be, and it's like it's okay to have these low moments and you can still get back up to the very top of the sport, which is so inspiring to see.
It's then appreciating the journey as well. I feel that's a big part of it too. Yeah.
I mean, if you're just placed on the top, there's really no growth there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've grown more as a person in the last 6 months than probably my entire life.
That's what the sport of, well, that's what I guess that's what sport does in general, I suppose. But it's interesting how, the number one athlete in whatever sport it is, there is nowhere to go. So you kind of have to come back down to then find your way back up. And Brits love this, obviously, where everyone loves a comeback. So I think that's the way to go forward, I think.
Absolutely.
Oh man, where to go? So the power that 4x1 free gave you, like you say, you're an emotional swimmer and you loved that race. How great was it to share that gold medal with the rest of your team? Like knowing that race as a whole, across the board, I think was one of the deepest 4x1 relays that we've seen in a very long time at Olympic Games.
Yeah, I mean, it was my favorite race that I did. Probably favorite race ever. But to give way to Caleb is a memory that I will hold forever.
Yeah.
But also getting to share that with Jack and Chris. Like, Chris popped off. I think it was like a year ago. Yeah, it was a year ago. So I knew he was going to do incredible things. And when I moved to California, I was still in Ohio, but my coach, Matt, had gone out there earlier. And I called him. He's telling me the people that are out there, like, hey, this is going to be a person to avoid. And basically he just said, like, Jack Alexi, you're going to be on the finals 4x1 with him in Paris.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
can see that prediction.
Yeah.
But this was before Jack blew up, because this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Matt's really good at seeing potential in these athletes, because all of his predictions have been right.
Yeah, especially when Jack went 47.0, didn't he, at trials? And that was in a heat swim. And I suddenly thought, well, he's going to go sub 47 here. Didn't quite back it up in the semis and finals. But, if he's going 47.0 and he looked good doing it as well, who knows where his ceiling is?
I mean, I watch him every day in practice, and I don't understand it. It's disgusting. Because I remember we were in the ready room, we were watching the earlier heats, and Chris was a heat before us. And so I'm sitting next to Jack. I'm like, what do you think he goes? He's like, 46.9. And I'm like, 47.5. And then he went 47.5. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good about this. But no, like 47.0, I did not expect. Especially out of a prelim. I know out of any of the U.S. athletes, he is probably the most capable to flat start a 46 consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've always said on our main channel that the 100 free in America on the men's side is the strongest and one of the strongest and one of the deepest events in the world. And I think you went in as quite heavy favourites for that relay gold. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
I mean, I did think that we were heavy favourites. I didn't expect any competition, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
But it was a good race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the other countries really stepped up and sort of put me in my place for my bad prediction.
If we then talk like the strength of that team, like the three other guys that did that final with you, obviously you've got Caleb, you've got Jack, you've got Chris Giuliano. How empowering did it feel for you to get the call on the 4x1 medley at the end of the meet to be the anchor, given the swims for the rest of the week?
That was a really tough. Conversation. Yeah, because I didn't want to take that away from Jack, because I still know that he went 47.0. and he's one of my best friends. And so I talked with Dave throughout the meet, and then as it got closer to making that decision after the 100 free final, I sat down with all the coaches and we talked, because I don't care if I am on the finals relay. Obviously, there's pride in being in the finals and being an anchor. But I just wanted to make sure that the best freestyler was on that relay. Coaches ended up giving me the go-ahead, but with my split, I think Jack also could have done that.
So I assume it wasn't a very easy conversation. I imagine it probably went on for quite a while as well, because you've got to try and tell Jack that you're not on the team. Unfortunately, like how does that conversation go?
Fortunately, I was not the person to tell Jack.
Okay.
Right.
But after the 100 free final, I texted him and I'm like, "Hey man, look, I don't know what's gonna happen with this medley, but if you feel confident in your ability to anchor us, then you have my vote."
Oh man, team dynamic.
Well, I don't know if that'd be the same with any other athlete other than somebody I train next to every day.
Yeah, sure.
I've seen firsthand exactly what he's capable of. But no, I mean, fortunately I was not telling him that, and Jack wasn't involved in that conversation.
Okay.
But pretty much I broke it down to the coaches, and I'm like, these are my strengths and weaknesses, and these are what I know of Jack. So I'm like, do we expect clean water when I go in? Because I specialize in swimming through people. I'm a racer. I rarely ever get out-touched. So if you're expecting clean water, I think Jack is the best move there, because he will always have more speed than I ever will. But
Were you expecting a massive challenge from the Chinese team in that medley relay?
I didn't expect a 45.
Well, yeah.
I don't think many did.
I mean, I knew France was going to be good.
Yeah.
I knew. I thought Britain was going to be really good, but then Petey got sick, so I wasn't sure what was going on. But I knew France and China would be our two main guys. I thought we'd get the gold. I did everything in my power to, but
I mean, 45 though. Like, what?
yeah, no. I touched the wall and I felt terrible, because I'm like, I got out-touched. I'm the reason we lost this relay. And then Caleb sort of rallied around me. He's like, "Hey, Pan just went a 45. I'm like, "Oh, okay. There's nothing I could have done."
If I remember right, you split like a 47-1, which actually is extremely good going. It's just that 45-9 is just out of this world.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be faster than my 6'7", but it was still proportional. Because there were no 46s in the field at all. There was a 45, and then I was the next fastest at 7'1".
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much more you can ask in that moment.
Nothing,
is there really?
no.
Yeah.
It's a weird question to ask an American, but given the strength and depth of like men's swimming right now, and the fact that you guys had to wait until the final day for an individual men's gold, is it a good thing that other countries around the world are now kind of catching up with you guys?
I mean, honestly, I think yes.
Okay.
I hope that the United States can still remain dominant, because we do have to fill the shoes of that Phelps era. And it's fun to just absolutely wipe the medal table. But if we're looking for the greater good of the sport, I do think it's better that the other countries are coming in there. I still want the United States to win, but make it entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got LA coming up. I'm pretty sure that one's going to be quite a strong showing, I would have
Yes.
thought.
Yeah, I think Bobby Fink said roughly the same sort of thing. Like, obviously, he wants the Americans to win, but it's got to be more dramatic in races and make it actually closer than just one country monopolizing every medal or gold medal.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like I don't even watch Katie Ledecky anymore because she just always smokes people. It's not. It's incredible to watch her dominate, but it's not a good race.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I get that. If we look at your other focus then, the 100 meters backstroke, you said at the start you didn't make it out of or you didn't make it to the final for the second Olympics in your individual event. What do you think is the focus that's going to get you over that hump?
I do think a lot of the failure on this year's Olympics was coming off of that relay. I mean, I didn't get back till 3 or 4 in the morning, and that was my
yeah.
first like final. And I'm sure you could see I was going crazy. Like that was so much fun.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I ever did that relay in the final. So if I'm on that again, I'll get more practice. I'll learn how to manage the emotions of that better.
Sure.
But also, I can't lie and say that my backstroke is just as good as it was 2 years ago. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
But I talked to Dave after Worlds because I went 47.8 or something in the free, and then my backstroke was 2.6, and I'm like, why am I going a best time in the free and not the back? And so we sat down and we broke it down. The last time, well, my 51 was when I was in college. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because I didn't train backstroke in college either.
Okay.
But I was still doing dual meets and I was still doing all the invites and the championships where they would put me in the 100 back.
It's a lot of racing.
So is it race sharpness then? Is that what it's down to?
I think so because my backstroke just hasn't felt together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if we rewind a little bit to US trials and you had that pretty shocking slip in the semi, I think it was, and you qualified lane 6 for the final, something like that. What was going through your mind at that particular point when you had that bad slip?
truly, as soon as my foot slipped, there was a split second of like, do I stop? And then
Oh wow.
instantly, instinct took over, and
Yeah.
I did it. There was no strategy, there was no thinking. It was just instinct.
You say that, it looked like the instinct swim was one of the fastest 100 backs I've seen you do. Like, if you get rid of the
Yeah.
slip.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the argument for racing a lot more to make it all instinctive, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think I'm thinking too much. Some of my best races, I don't remember them.
Okay.
But I have so much confidence in my freestyle because I'm always training freestyle. And then I show up to Paris or a Worlds and I'm stuck in my head because I don't know what this backstroke's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to feel like because I haven't done it.
Okay. Oh man, that's mad for someone who's a former world record holder.
I know, it is insane, isn't it?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I never expected that. I think that
Do you think
24-0. Sorry, you could go ahead.
Do you think that maybe gave you an unfair label to have that swim? Do you think that has impacted the last few years? That it's
A
given
little
you
bit.
the label as the backstroker?
I mean, I've only made the team in the 100 back consistently.
Sure.
So I don't like to think of myself as a backstroker. If people ask what I do, I say I'm sprint, free, and back.
Yeah.
The reason I consider myself more freestyle is because I can do the 50, 100, 200 freestyle when I will only swim the 100 backstroke. So I have more freestyle events than I do backstroke. So that's my justification.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say race sharpness is kind of key to going fast, obviously, because we had Laura Stevens on, one of our GB 200 fly swimmers, and she very much said that racing is actually the best form of training. And of course, being out there in America, you have more chances to race with all your dual meets and stuff. And I honestly think we should probably race more. But I mean, roughly speaking, how many times would you race in a season?
When I was in college, it was probably 10 to 15 of actual races against other teams. But then we do like suit up sets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas now that I've been a professional, you only get 3, 4 meets a year, and 2 of them are Olympics and Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk USA team as a whole then. So who for you was your standout American swimmer?
Ooh, are we talking men and women?
You can give us one of each if you want.
All right. For the men, I think you obviously have to go with Bobby Fink. I mean, he was our only individual gold and a world record. Women, man, Tori did so good, but I think I'm still going to give it to Gretchen.
Okay.
Why is that? Because I think I'm going off memory here. I think Tori won 5 medals. Is that correct? Yeah.
She did win 5 medals, but I was more impressed with Gretchen's performance.
Okay.
Because I knew Tori was capable of that. I think a lot of Gretchen's, I don't even want to call it underperformance. I mean, she won 3 or 4 medals and broke a world record in trials. But this was her first Olympics. Speaking from experience, the first Olympics is really difficult to manage. So, I mean, obviously they were both incredible. But I'm more impressed with how Gretchen did, all things considered, whereas Tori has been proving herself as one of the greats for years.
I like that because over here in Britain, a lot of people have labelled the British performance pretty bad at the Olympic Games, but I think we had 16 Olympic debutants, and I don't think any of them let themselves down. So I think it's good to know that, that first Olympic Games is hard. Like, it genuinely is hard.
It's really difficult.
It's a new experience, isn't it? I suppose that's the whole thing, and getting used to the athletes' village, and if the beds are as bad as what you say they are, that's a new thing to take into account as well, I guess.
Yeah, the beds were bad, the food was bad. I mean, all of it was. The buses were terrible.
Yeah, we heard about that from Dan Whiffen.
Dan Whiffen said that, yeah.
But I mean, your first international meet is going to be a challenge. My first international was the Olympics, so that was a double challenge. But like for a Worlds, you're staying in a hotel and you're still just Team USA. We're on, like, it runs a lot smoother because it's smaller. Whereas the Olympics is all chaos.
Yeah, I mean, we heard about the media that Dan Whiffen had to do after his 800 free, and like same with you, like he got to bed at no fault of his own at 3 a.m. Like that, he had no chance of getting to bed any earlier than 3 a.m, which is just bonkers.
It's hard work, isn't it? I mean, America ultimately finished top of the table. It was a lot closer than I think other previous Olympics. How would you rate the team as a whole then?
Are we talking like letter scale, or Britain do letters in school?
Yeah, ABC.
Okay, good. I've never been, so I'd say B minus.
Okay.
Maybe C plus. I mean, as a whole, because we also had a ton of rookies, and we're seeing a changing of the guard. I mean, that medley relay, 3 of the 4 of us are fathers, or fathers soon. But
that changes
I
things.
think Yeah, I think our 28 team is going to be completely different. I want to say Tokyo was 80% new.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see another one of those for LA.
Yeah,
nice.
it puts life into perspective when you have little ones running around like Scott does now, or just sort
And
of
you do,
lying there
yeah.
like I do.
Just like
Just lying there at the moment, wriggling.
So what does the future hold for Hunter Armstrong then over the next few months, years?
Right now, I'm in 25 credit hours, finishing my degree at Ohio State, um, and I'm taking a break.
Nice.
Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to short course worlds. I think that just sort of depends on when I want to get back in the water again.
Makes sense.
But I've allotted myself 6 months. Um, Hopefully, I don't take all of that, or else there's no way I'm going to short course worlds.
I was going to say that is in
Yeah.
6 months, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's within, isn't it? Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no, I'm I'm in a new house. I'm back home. I just bought 2 puppies, so I'm just trying to set up my life without swimming.
Mm.
And if I feel drawn back to it, perfect. And then I think that's when I can reach my prime again, is when I'm driven intrinsically to do this stuff instead of just not wanting to get yelled at by coach for missing practice.
I feel like that's a good place to be after an Olympic Games. That's a
is,
good
yeah.
mentality to have.
The rest and recovery is absolutely vital, and it's needed after. I know it's a shorter Olympic cycle this time around, but it's still quite a long time, 3 years, isn't it? So the rest is needed.
It flew by. I mean, when I did that meet, I had no idea how much can change in 3 years. But when I came back for the meet and greet, I'd have kids, well, teenagers, come up to me and they'd show me a picture of the meet and greet I did 3 years ago, and they're
fully
different
grown adults
people.
now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when I left, these kids couldn't even talk, and now
Oh, wow.
it's crazy. That really put things into perspective
Yeah,
of
yeah,
how long a quad really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, Hunter, it's been so much fun talking to you on this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. We do usually finish with some quick fire questions so our listeners can get to know you that little bit better. So we'll race through these to finish. What is your favorite event in swimming?
Long course, 100 free. Short course, 200 free.
Nice.
okay.
Who is your swimming idol?
I think forever and always it'll be Caleb Dressel.
Nice. What's your proudest moment in swimming so far?
That 4x1 free relay.
Understandable.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Yep.
What's the hardest set you've ever done in training?
Ooh. I think it might have been what I did in Raleigh, which again was the confidence booster for that 46.7. We would do 450s. The first 3 were 25 at 100 tempo, then 25 with 2 breaths. And then the fourth one was 50 back end pace, which my back end pace is 24.5. We did that for 4 rounds, and I think it was 23.7, 23.4, 23.1, 22.8, all from a push in a brief.
Oh, wow. How much rest are you getting in that?
I want to say they were on a minute, and then the fourth one was on a minute 30.
Okay. You won't know this, but there's swimming clubs around the UK who listen to this part of the podcast, and that's their session on a Saturday morning.
Oh no, I'm so sorry, kids.
No, it's good. They do get it adjusted slightly by their coaches. They're not completely horrible
Okay.
people.
Yeah, gosh, you should have
might have
told me that
changed, who knows?
first. I would have been like,
changed.
hardest workout is 2,000 on the house, easy with fins.
Yeah.
And final question, gets to know you a little bit away from a swimming pool. If you were to go on a road trip, there's 3 spaces in the car. You can take friends, family, celebrities, anyone you want with you. Who would you take?
Ooh, I'm I'm going to go with Chris Pratt. I'm going to bring my brother because my brother really wants to meet Chris Pratt.
Nice.
And then, probably my best friend, Jaden Doty. He's just a ton of fun to be around.
Nice.
As is Chris Pratt, I imagine. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I haven't met him, but
So apparently he's a magician. So I've had opportunities to meet him, but he just hasn't been there.
Oh, man. Need to get that one sorted out.
I met Henry Cavill, though.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
Is that through Magic?
Yes. Magic Castle in LA.
That's nice.
Who knew magic would take you so far, eh?
Not me. I did it because I was bored at swim meets. And now I found out that, like, all of Hollywood just loves magic.
So in your little 6 months where you figure out swimming, magic is very much carrying on.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, I'm back practicing. I'm getting new tricks, working with friends.
Nice.
I mean, priority, the house. But
Yep.
in my off time, I have a deck of cards.
Nice.
I have gone through your Instagram and had a look at some of your tricks. I'm like, whoa, that's amazing.
I need to get back into that as
Yeah,
far as posting.
Yeah. Hunter, it's been so much fun talking to you on, this evening here, this afternoon over in America, this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And best of luck with the house, with the cards, and hopefully for swimming in the near future.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations on another gold. And, we'll see what happens in LA. Let's see if that's the target for you.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.